Hello, I'm looking at the current situation prevailing in the US equity market and looking at some of the ways in which we can predict whether uh, this correction that just went a few days ago, was it over, or will there be more correction in the equity market? So, to understand the US equity market, we need to understand which kind of a bubble are we in, what's happening with different sector, what's happening with the interest rate, what's happening with the Chinese and the Indian market, and then look at the thing in a comprehensive way. So if I look at it, so in front of you I have the 5 years history of the Indian BSE Sensex, uh, and we'll also look at other things. So let's move here back. So the S&P index, it's at 1987 today, the latest trading that's happening at this moment. It went as high as 2166, so it's just 200 points down, or rather less. Yeah, it's just 140 points down, which is like 7.5% correction from the all-time high. Let's look at the other indices. We have the Chinese index, which just went very high, something like 5,000 in the June 2015, and it has corrected to 3,000 at this moment. Currently it's 3083, so like a 40% correction. So, and let's look at a few more indices to get more clarity over this. So this is Chinese stock market. It has risen up by 4%, lots of volatility. Let me do that to 1 month. So in the last 1 year, it has been gone ups and down like a roller coaster from 5,000 to I think the minimum was 2964, again jumping back 5%. Let's look at the interest rate. The interest rate into the US has been, again, it's like a very cyclic movement. Currently it stands at 2.15. At one time when this was happening, they went as low as 1.64, so each time a year they go 1.6 and then they bounce back to 2.2. I think that's what is the broad phenomena that's going on. Now let's look at the private equity indices. This is S&P listed private index, and this is a 10-year period. So private equity was boomed before the recession. After the recession, it has gone up, but an interesting thing that I see is nothing is happening in the private equity. So all the private equity that I believe is troublesome is the private equity in the emerging market, where the valuations are not so great. Let's look at the S&P energy sector. It was very high before the recession. It went at the same height because this is a strong correlation with the S&P, and then it went like very down. It's game up for them because they are like 469 is something where they were in 2010 after the recession. So more or less, also by the decreasing equity prices, the energy market have gone down. I believe that it's a bit of undervalued. So we looked at all the major indices that could affect us. This is the Indian index. It's if I look at it from the last 5 years, it has gone up. The highest point was 30,000, and it's 4,000 down. Again, it's like a 10-12% correction. So the overall idea here is that in the last 1 week, the China has corrected from the all-time high to 40%. Indian market have corrected to like 10-12%, and the S&P has corrected just over 7.5%. So when I look at the iShares listed private equity, it uses these companies, Blackstone Group, some asset management company, Ares, KKR, and so on. And if you see here, they have still just reached to manage the highest point just before the recession. I think the same for S&P is very different, because S&P reached its point quite earlier and it went over that. So And after that, from their highest point, which should be 10,000, I think there is a steep fall. Let's check that. Yeah, so there is a steep fall. So from like 10,000, it has come to not much, so 10,000 to 9,000. Let me see if I can get a number here. But yeah, I think that's where it is going. So 9,000. So again, a 10% correction here. So the question is how much these companies have invested in China, and uh, how much they have invested in Indian private equity, which is very hard to model and very hard to find the real value of, because all those apps, those freebies, those online websites, and everything, it's hard exactly to find out. This is the global equity, PowerShares Global listed private equity. If you look at the 10-year period, it still is not as high as it was. So overall, with the recession, the global private equity market collapsed. Uh, but the private equity only in the IT sector, I guess, is a bit overvalued. Others might not be as bad, like private equity in biotech is not such overvalued. So only because of the valuation that you do of the website leads and how much you are going to sell, and whether different companies can grow at the same level, or different tech companies are based on the valuation that Amazon or a big company would buy them, and their future growth rate is not right. So those kind of things where jump in, it becomes very tricky for the valuation perspective, while the other aspects like biotech private equity or energy private equity, it's not that risky. So to get a greater magnification, you can choose the technology index. So this is S&P Information Technology Index. Over the last 10 years, if you see, it did fell, but it did not got devastated. So it was like 400, it went to like half the value, and at this time it's like very high. This is like the most booming aspect of the S&P, because if you see here, as compared to pre-recession time, it's doubled. If you see the S&P, and this is the private equity index, it was not able to reach that level. But while you see the S&P, just before the recession, its highest point was 1500. It has went to like 2000, which is like 30% higher than the previous all-time high before the recession. While here, if you see, it's like 400, and it has been like 80 or 90% hike. But again, we see a sharp correction, because it just, I guess, went down to 675, which is a kind of a correction, but not so great. So this is about the information technology, the private equity, the Chinese market, the Indian market, and the interest rate. We'll see a lot more conclusion based on the findings in the next video.